So this is presumably the first and last time that you're graduating from law school. It is my first and probably last law school commencement address. So we're in this together, and I want to thank President LeDuc for the very kind remarks and for inviting me to be here with you today. I did prepare. I've not having done this before, I thought that might be appropriate. So I started with my law school commencement, and I could not remember who spoke or what he said. And just waiting to come down here this afternoon, I can tell you most of the people up here would say the same thing. So I'm assuming you will not remember who I am after tomorrow's dinner, but I'm hoping that you might remember something that I said. Then I did some homework on William Howard Taft. It's good that I didn't decide to base my remarks on that because he's written up in the front page of your program, and so that would have been really redundant. I did learn that he's probably the first tax collector to be elected president of the United States and the last president with facial hair. Those are very important things, but probably not very useful to you as you go forward in your career unless you plan to run for president, in which case you might want a razor. Then I did the very best kind of in-depth, high-level academic research possible. I Googled law school commencement addresses. I can tell you that within the last few years, a Stanford student commencement speaker crowdsourced her address, just sending messages out to her classmates, asking what they wanted her to say, and then organizing it. I didn't know you well enough to trust what you might give me back, so that didn't seem to be good. Justice Scalia spoke at William and Mary and got quite a bit of reporting on that. He opined that he thinks law school should stay at 3 years, not go to 2 years, and he thinks constitutional law should be mandatory. Whether you agree or don't agree with Justice Scalia, that's probably not going to affect you since you're done with law school. Harvard apparently is lofty enough that they don't need to even pretend to be serious about their addresses, so last year Mindy Kaling gave their law school address despite not being a lawyer, relying primarily on her true charm and celebrity personality. I have neither, so that didn't work. Their undergraduate address that got the most press was Will Ferrell. Again, skills I do not have. And then finally, there's something, who knew, called iSpeeches.com, which offered to give me a law school commencement address with a 100% money-back guarantee. It would give me lines about the importance of law on society, the enjoyment I've had in the profession, the debt you all owe to your parents, family, and supporters, and the future opportunities you will have. While your parents, family, and supporters might like to hear about those things, I'm guessing you don't, so I'm moving on. So what I rested on was the 5 things I wish somebody had told me before I started practicing law. I majored in West African drumming in college. It is not, note to self, a marketable talent. I went to law school out of necessity rather than some grand passion for the profession I'd been dreaming of my whole life. It seemed to be something one could do without having taken any science courses or economics, although economics would have been good. So, 5 things that I wish I had learned. Number 1, guard your reputation with your life. In a word, behave. The law community, whether in this town, in this state, or in this country, is very small. I'm an employment lawyer. We all know each other all over the country. If you are a jerk, which you can be, your opponent is allowed to file a motion on Christmas Eve that has your response due on New Year's Eve and totally mess up your holidays. They're entitled to say no when you ask for an extension of a deadline, requiring you to ask the court for the courtesy, and judges don't like to see you on those kinds of things. Think of your colleagues as your colleagues, not your competitors. It is a very competitive world out there, but if you treat the people in your own office as your competitors, you're not going to have a lot of fun, and you never know where they will end up. 2 of my former partners at Miller Canfield ended up as general counsels at this law school. We are a client of Cooley Law School, so guess who hired us or could have chosen not to hire us? Justice Markman is a former colleague of ours. I appear in front of his court from time to time. You don't know whether it's the secretary you hire, whether it's the boss you have, or whether it's the person down the hall that's going to come up for partnership at the same time as you do, where they're going to land. Treat them in a way you'd be proud to treat them so that when they get one of those positions, you don't say, oh no. Number 2, leave your ego at the door. Lawyers are, by definition, people with healthy egos. One of the skills we all have in common is we talk a lot. One of the skills we all have in common is we know how to advocate, and that tends to require a reasonably healthy ego. But the law, they don't tell you this all the time, is a client service profession. And I know Cooley actually has a course on client service and enters into competitions and wins on client service. That's a brilliant thing because that really is what we do. It is your job to make the client feel good, not to show off yourself. Now, if you're a new lawyer, whether you're going into the government, a prosecutor's office, a small law firm, a large law firm, wherever you go, in many cases, your clients are the people in your place above you. They're the people giving you the assignments, so you need to treat them the way you would treat a client. That means be reliable, meet your deadlines, and learn as much as possible how to say an unqualified yes. When I started at Miller Canfield, I wasn't doing very well. More about that when we get to another lesson. But I worked hard and I said yes. Not no, and not, well, if you want this by Monday, I've got tickets to the Michigan State-Michigan football game for Saturday, and my mother-in-law is coming for dinner on Sunday, but I think I might be able to get, those are not the client's problems. The client just wants to know, are you gonna get it done? Or aren't you going to get it done? And you want the answer to be yes. If you become the can-do person, it will buy you goodwill, which will thus buy you time while you learn how to do the job. Speaking of learning how to do the job, number 3, draft, contrary to what I thought before I started practicing, does not mean draft. No matter how good you were in law school, there is a very steep learning curve. At University of Michigan, I won the writing prize for my class. So I arrived at Miller Canfield as a branded good writer. Tell that to the partners for whom I worked my first 3 years. They said I was lousy, and they were right. They would say, just get me a draft, and I viewed draft as something that still needed work. And so I gave them something that still needed work. No, draft is something that they take your best work from and then add their value. That's why they're more senior. That's why they have the job. Your best draft is their lowest standard. And they can't unsee your bad work, nor does it come off the computer system. So never give somebody something that you aren't proud of. At the end of my second year, my evaluation was, and I quote from a very lovely man, Megan, your work is about average, and here at Miller Canfield, Paddock and Stone, average is not good enough. I was off to a great start. Number 4 is very unpopular these days, and I don't even know what generation we're on anymore. I just know I'm out of all of them. But play for the long haul, not the short fix. Folks get to college, they're there for maybe 4, maybe 5 years. You get to law school, you're in and out maybe 3 or 4 years. You may be in this profession for decades. I was a summer associate at Miller Canfield 30 years ago. It's been a long, long haul. Figure out the Venn diagram intersection of what you are good at and what you like, because you're going to be doing this for a long time. And as you're figuring that out, do not define your value by money. If you don't enjoy what you do, you will not be good at it. If you do not think what you do is worthwhile, you will not be good at it. So make sure that you're doing something that means something to you. If I've succeeded at anything, that's what I've succeeded as. I started as an unprepared lawyer with a degree in West African drumming, and in my first 3 months as a lawyer, a guy who went to law school with me, started at Miller Canfield the same time as I did, was a brand new lawyer, brought in as a client the country of Poland. Mighty hard to compete with the country of Poland. Good thing I decided not to be competitive. My goal was to keep my job and make sure nobody learned I was an imposter. So I just worked. That's all I did, is work. When they said I needed to get better, I figured out what I needed to do to get better, which meant work harder, work more carefully. I was asked to do a lot of things that don't pay. Practice development, recruiting committee, those kinds of things. Megan, become the expert in the Americans with Disabilities Act because nobody else wants to read it, so go to the conferences, learn it. I did not get paid for those things, and the guy down the hall who billed more hours each of those years got paid more than I did because he made more money for the firm. But it's a long-term investment. I did not make partner in my first or second year of eligibility, and I did not make equity partner in my first or second year of eligibility. The guy who brought in Poland did. Well-deserved, and he's still there and doing well. But most of the other people who were in line in front of us, they're not there anymore. Because it's one thing to sit in an office and bill hours all day, and it's another thing to actually learn the practice of law, which means learning about people, learning about clients, learning about various areas of law, keeping your education current. And lots of people are now gone, and I'm still there. Now, I have really lofty titles. I'm the chair of a group, and I'm the chair of the managing directors, which means that last week I gave the CEO his evaluation. Pretty heady stuff. But my job does not pay the most because I'm not bringing in as much money as some people who don't do any of those things. They make more money than I do. But my job plays to my strengths. It took me about 15 to 20 years to find my lane, but I found it and I'm driving in it. So find yours. Number 5, and there are only 5, so we're closing in on the big finish. Challenge the status quo. When I started, women could not wear pants. In my law firm, every woman had suits that came from the same place. There was a place in Massachusetts that would send you fabric swatches. They had 3 styles. You picked which ones, and somebody ordered all your suits. I owned one suit when I started at Miller Canfield, blue pinstripes, pair of 2-inch blue pumps, 3 blouses, 1 white, 1 pink, 1 blue, and 3 paisley ties, and that's what we all wore. My uniform now is black pants. I have a black dog, and if I wear black pants, I'm less likely to have a lint remover all day long. There was no such thing as working part-time when I started. Now we have part-time policies for men and women who might want to spend time raising children, spend time doing political work, various other kinds of things. Because we've always done it that way is a very easy answer to give. However, if you're going to challenge the status quo, you have to first know what the status quo is and understand why it is there. Because actually there are some things that happen in the law profession that make sense. So if your proposal is, I want to earn the same pay but work less, or I won't work on weekends even if the client needs something on a Monday, those might not be best sellers. So sometimes there are very good reasons. If your employer goes out of business or you get laid off, all of your great advocacy will have gone for naught. So it's a good idea to sort of figure out what's going on and then decide what you might want to advocate for. So concluding, President LeDuc mentioned that I went to Wesleyan University. John Wesley has many colleges and universities named after him, Kentucky, West Virginia, you name it. I went to the original in Connecticut. Depending on your persuasion, you will like or not like it. It's the home of Bill Belichick. But John Wesley left us with words that I think are words to keep in mind as you go through your profession. Do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as ever you can. A postscript by Megan Norris, whose name you will have forgotten by tomorrow, but keep your sense of humor, you're going to need it. Congratulations and good luck.